A lot's been written about the economic and political disruption caused by the ever-changing Trump tariff policy. What are the considerations from a legal perspective? The most obvious knock-on effect is that trust has been irrevocably compromised. The Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, CUSMA, was negotiated by President Trump in his first term, and yet abrogated due to trumped-up, allegations of fentanyl emergency. If duly negotiated trade agreements can be utterly ignored based on unfounded allegations that have nothing to do with trade policy, it quickly becomes obvious that what was intended is a false premise negotiation based on raw power. Fentanyl was used to justify what was termed a national emergency, which in turn was used to justify the tariffs. It's obvious to everyone that the stated reason was not the real reason, and that the original tariffs imposed upon Canada were nothing more than an economic shot across the bow, and a thinly veiled threat at that, designed to threaten our sovereignty. This was driven home with openly chilling musings from the President himself about Canada becoming the 51st state. If the faulty premise of a fentanyl crisis and its resulting action were accepted, what's the point of negotiating anything at any time? Stated differently, if the referee isn't going to enforce the rules of a game, why bother agreeing to what the rules will be in advance? Any match would be a free-for-all whether there were rules or not. Accordingly, Canada has steadfastly rejected the notion that fentanyl crossing over the border into the U.S. is a problem worthy of an emergency status, while simultaneously working to curb what little fentanyl may be crossing that border. In fact, we've since learned that more fentanyl crosses the border from the American side. When the trust and confidence shared by trading partners is scuppered, the relationship can never be the same again. It's like having your partner engage in infidelity. The fact that the relationship is irrevocably altered is a critical consideration for those who think their relationship will normalize once Donald Trump leaves office. Prime Minister Carney has been emphatic that this ship has sailed. Canada now has a Prime Minister with a mandate to represent the national interest. Mark Carney has already agreed that a renegotiation of CUSMA can begin in earnest, but this time it will be imperative that ironclad parameters are established so another ham-fisted unilateral abrogation of the deal can confidently be avoided. While that sounds hopeful in theory, it should be obvious that, based on recent experience, a truly sensible and lasting outcome might not be possible. After the tariffs were initially imposed, the Canadian government said it considered the move by Trump illegal, and that it violated the trade commitments made between the two countries under the Free Trade Agreement and under the World Trade Organization. According to Barry Appleton, an internationally recognized trade lawyer, there are four main takeaways. First, Canada has become a target. This was a geopolitical gut punch and a market-moving event, upending the assumption that Canada's relationship with the U.S. is stable and rules-based. Second, legal predictability has collapsed. The real damage is not the tariffs, it's the unraveling of legal predictability. For investors, this raises risk premiums on cross-border trade, diminishes confidence in dispute settlement, and injects geopolitical volatility into valuations, especially in manufacturing, agri-food, energy, and critical minerals. Third, protectionism now masquerades as emergency. For Canadian businesses and investors, it signals that trade and tax policies are now susceptible to political mood swings, not structured negotiation. Fourth and finally, the strategic goal is not fair trade, it's chaos. To hear Appleton tell it, this is not diplomacy, it's extortion dressed as trade policy. It's difficult to negotiate based on the rule of law when the counterparty's attitude toward the rule of law is so openly disdainful. Canada is not alone in this challenge, but given the scope, complexity, and immediacy of the Canada-US relationship, Canada may have more to lose than any other country. Back in the 1980s, US President Ronald Reagan was fond of saying, "Trust but verify," regarding the Soviet Union and the destruction of their nuclear weapons. Today, Canada may have to take a similar stance, something like, negotiate in good faith, but keep your options open. There's a growing consensus that the third option of building new trade alliances is back, with more urgency than ever. Trading with the United Kingdom and mainland Europe might be more cumbersome, expensive, and time-delayed than the US, but at least we know that the Europeans are trustworthy partners. For 80 years, the United States was a paragon of international growth based on economic stability, cooperation, and adherence to the rule of law. Today, very few countries trust the United States. The world has changed forever. In political and economic circles, there's a clear recognition that what Prime Minister Carney said in Davos in February is true. The world has changed. There is no going back. Unfortunately, that new reality is slow to be accepted by those who offer their thoughts on capital markets. The remainder of 2026 will almost certainly be punctuated by more erratic and unpredictable behavior from south of the border. Despite this, many investors act as though the world hasn't changed and haven't adjusted their portfolio outlook to reflect the new reality. And I think that may be the most dangerous development of all.